Ambassador Chen Wei walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her face calm. The chamber was enormous, bigger than any building on Earth. It floated in space, made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft light. Through the transparent walls, she could see stars everywhere. The chamber was filled with aliens. So many different kinds that Chen had stopped trying to count them all. Some floated in the air like clouds of colored gas. Others looked like giant insects made of metal. There were beings that seemed to be made of pure light, and creatures that looked like living rocks. 200 different species all gathered in one place. Chen's platform was small and located near the back of the chamber. A small holographic sign above it showed Earth's location in the galaxy. She stood alone on the platform, representing all of humanity. It felt lonely and terrifying at the same time. The humans had only been discovered 3 years ago. A ship from a species called the Vraxians had found Earth by accident while mapping new trade routes. The Vraxians had scanned Earth, taken some data, and filed a report with the Galactic Council. The report was not kind. It said humans were primitive, violent, and not worth much attention. Chen had read that report many times. It hurt to see her entire species described in such cold, dismissive words. But right now she had bigger problems to worry about. 6 months ago, something terrible had entered human space. The Krell swarm. Chen had watched the reports with growing horror. The Krell were not like other aliens. They did not want to trade or talk. They wanted to consume everything in their path. Their ships were alive, made of organic material that could heal and adapt. They ate entire planets, turning all the material into more ships and more Krell. The Krell had already destroyed 3 of Earth's outer colonies. Mars had fallen in just 3 days. The mining stations near Jupiter had gone silent. Thousands of humans were dead and millions more were in danger. The Krell fleet was heading straight for Earth. That was why Chen was here. To beg for help. A sound echoed through the chamber like a deep bell ringing. The session was starting. Chen's hands shook slightly, but she clasped them behind her back where no one could see. A creature that looked like a tall, thin tree made of silver metal spoke first. Its voice came out as a translation in Chen's earpiece. "We will now hear the petition from the human representative. State your case." Chen stepped forward to the edge of her platform. She pressed a button on her wrist device, and holographic images appeared in the center of the chamber. The images showed the Krell ships massive and terrifying. They showed the destroyed colonies, the desperate messages from dying humans. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Chen began. Her voice sounded small in the huge chamber, but the translation system made sure everyone could hear. "I come before you to request aid. The Krell swarm has entered our system. We have tried to fight them, but we do not have the weapons or technology to stop them. Our people are dying. We ask the Council for military assistance or at least protection under your laws that might force the Krell to leave our space." Chen showed more images. The Krell bioships eating asteroids growing larger, the small human defense fleet trying to fight back, failing, the crowded evacuation centers on Earth where people waited in fear. "We know we are new to the galaxy," Chen continued. "We know we are not advanced, but we are a living species and we want to survive. We are asking for help." She finished her presentation and waited. The silence that followed felt heavy and cold. Then the laughter started. It was not loud laughter, but it was there. A chittering sound from one section of the chamber. A series of clicking noises from another. The light beings flickered in a pattern that Chen's translator said was amusement. An old creature near the center of the chamber spoke. It looked like a giant floating jellyfish, ancient and vast. Chen's translator identified it as the Zelvari Hierophant, one of the oldest members of the council. "Human," the Hierophant said, its voice tired and bored. "Your petition has been heard. But tell us, why should the council spend its resources protecting your species? What have you accomplished? What have you contributed to galactic civilization?" Chen felt anger rising in her chest, but she pushed it down. "We have art, music, literature. We have science and mathematics. We have nothing we have not seen before," another voice interrupted. This one came from a cluster of insect-like creatures that spoke as one. "You are barely spacefaring. You have been traveling between planets for less than one of our breeding cycles. That is nothing. That is less than nothing." A being made of flowing water spoke next. "You fight among yourselves constantly. Your planet is divided into hundreds of small governments. You cannot even unify your own world. Why should we believe you are worth saving? More voices joined in, each one pointing out humanity's flaws and failures. Chen tried to respond, tried to defend her species, but they talked over her. They were not interested in debate. They had already made up their minds. The worst came from a Vraxian delegate, one of the species that had first discovered Earth. Perhaps, it said, its voice casual and cruel. Being consumed by the Krell is your purpose. The galaxy needs biomass. Lesser species often serve better as food than as civilizations. The chamber erupted in more laughter and agreement. Chen felt her face grow hot with shame and rage. She wanted to scream at them, to make them understand, but she knew it would do no good. The Zelvari Hierophant spoke again, its voice final. The Galactic Council has made its decision. Earth's petition for aid is denied. No military assistance will be provided. No protection under Council law will be granted. This session is concluded. Just like that, it was over. The holographic displays disappeared. The representatives began to leave, chattering to each other about other business. To them, Earth's death was already decided and forgotten. Chen stood on her platform, feeling numb. She had failed. Earth was going to die, and the galaxy did not care. As she turned to leave, a young alien approached her. It was small and had 4 arms and large eyes. It looked nervous as it spoke quietly to Chen. "I am sorry," it said. Its translator marked it as an Arxian Commonwealth junior diplomat. "I wish we could help, but the Council's decision is final. If you want your species to survive, you should evacuate. Take as many ships as you can and scatter across the galaxy. Hide. It is what weaker species do when the Krell come." Chen looked at the young alien. It seemed genuinely sorry, which somehow made things worse. "Thank you," Chen said, her voice cold. "But humans do not scatter." She walked out of the chamber, her back straight and her head high. Behind her, the Council continued with their business, already forgetting about the small primitive species called humanity. Chen returned to her ship and sent a message back to Earth. It was simple and direct. "They will not help us. We stand alone." On Earth, leaders gathered to read the message. Then they began to prepare for war. The Krell swarm reached Mars 6 weeks after the Council denied Earth's plea. The colony on Mars had 30,000 people. They sent desperate messages as the bioships approached, their organic hulls pulsing with sickly light. The Krell did not answer. They did not negotiate. They simply attacked. Mars fell in 3 days. The defense satellites were destroyed in the first hour. The colony domes were cracked open, and the Krell ships landed on the surface. They absorbed everything: buildings, equipment, vehicles, even the bodies of the dead. The Krell ships grew larger with each thing they consumed. Europa Station went silent next. The ice moon had been home to 5,000 scientists and miners. Their last transmission was filled with static and screaming, then nothing. The mining operations in the asteroid belt were next. Hundreds of small stations, each with dozens of workers. The Krell moved through them like a plague, consuming everything. The workers tried to evacuate, but there was nowhere to run. The Krell ships were faster than anything humans had. On Earth, people watched the news with growing fear. The governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders prayed. Parents held their children close. Everyone knew the Krell were coming, and no one was coming to save them. But something else was happening too. Something the Galactic Council had not expected. Humanity was not scattering. They were not evacuating. They were coming together. The United Nations Security Council held a meeting that lasted 72 hours. Every nation sent their leaders. Countries that had been enemies for decades sat at the same table. Old grudges and territorial disputes were put aside. There was only one question now: how do we survive? The decision was unanimous. All of Earth's military forces would be placed under a single command. General Zhao Yun, the former head of the Pan-Asian Defense Network, was chosen to lead. She was brilliant, ruthless, and had spent her entire career studying military history. If anyone could find a way to fight the Krell, it was her. General Zhao's first order shocked everyone. She told every nation to send her everything. All weapons, all ships, all resources. She did not care about borders or ownership. She needed everything humanity had if they were going to survive. The response was incredible. Within 48 hours, weapons were being shipped from every corner of the globe. Old fighter jets, new spacecraft, missiles, tanks, everything. The International Space Station was transformed into a military base. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, attaching weapons to the station's hull. But General Zhao knew conventional weapons would not be enough. The Krell ships could heal themselves. They adapted to attacks. Humanity needed something different, something the Krell had never seen before. She called a meeting with Earth's top scientists. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, a brilliant physicist from Nigeria, led the discussion. The scientists were tired and scared, but they were also angry. The galaxy had abandoned them. Now they had to save themselves. "We cannot match their technology," Dr. Okonkwo said, her voice steady. "But we have something they do not. We have centuries of experience in killing each other." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what she meant. For hundreds of years, humans had developed weapons. Not to fight aliens, but to fight other humans. Nuclear bombs. Chemical weapons. Biological agents. Weapons so terrible that Earth had banned most of them by international treaty. But now, with extinction staring them in the face, those treaties did not matter anymore. "We use everything," General Zhao said. "Every weapon we have ever made. Every terrible thing we have invented. We throw it all at the Krell, and we do not stop until they are dead or we are." The decision was made. The weapons were brought out of storage. Nuclear warheads that had been scheduled for destruction were instead loaded onto missiles. Chemical weapons were prepared. Even experimental weapons, things that had never been tested, were readied for use. The moon became a fortress. Construction crews worked in shifts 24 hours a day. They built railguns using parts from particle accelerators. They dug bunkers deep into the lunar surface. They covered every crater with missile launchers and defense platforms. The moon would be humanity's last line of defense before Earth itself. Civilian ships were retrofitted as military vessels. Cargo haulers had weapons bolted to their hulls. Passenger shuttles became troop transports. Communication satellites were turned into kinetic weapons that could drop from orbit. Nothing was wasted. Everything became a weapon. The Galactic Council watched through their automated monitoring probes. They were curious to see how long the humans would last. Some species opened betting pools. The consensus was that Earth would fall in 2 weeks, maybe less. The Krell swarm entered Earth's inner solar system on a Tuesday morning. 300 bioships, each the size of an aircraft carrier. Around them flew tens of thousands of smaller attack craft. The swarm moved in a formation that had conquered 40 other species. They expected easy prey. They reached the orbit of Mars and kept coming. General Zhao watched them on her screens and gave the order. "All units, fire everything." Space lit up with nuclear fire. Humanity had seeded the approach path with thousands of nuclear warheads. The mines floated in space waiting. When the Krell ships came close, they detonated. Hundreds of nuclear explosions went off at once, creating a wall of atomic fire. The EMP from the blast did little to the organic Krell ships, but the radiation and the kinetic force were devastating. The smaller Krell attack craft were torn apart by the thousands. Debris spun through space. The larger bioships were damaged, their hulls scorched and torn, but the Krell adapted. Their ships began to heal, growing thicker armor. They changed their formation, spreading out to avoid concentrated fire. They kept coming. General Zhao ordered the retreat. The human forces fell back to the asteroid belt. The Krell followed, confident in their victory. The asteroid belt was where the real trap waited. The mining stations that the Krell had consumed weeks ago were empty. But before evacuating, the humans had left surprises behind. Each station had been rigged with fusion charges buried deep in the asteroids. As the Krell ships moved in to absorb the asteroids, General Zhao gave another order. "Detonate." The asteroids exploded. Not small explosions, but massive fusion detonations that turned mountains of rock and ice into weapons. The asteroids became giant fragmentation grenades, throwing debris in all directions at incredible speeds. 60 Krell bioships were destroyed or crippled in seconds. The swarm had never seen anything like it. They had never lost so many ships to a primitive species. Across the galaxy, the betting pools went quiet. Military analysts from a dozen species began studying the battle. The humans were not winning, but they were making the Krell pay for every meter of space. The battle moved to Jupiter's orbit. General Zhao had one more surprise. Over the past weeks, every mass driver and railgun that humanity could build had been launching projectiles. Small payloads accelerated to 10% of the speed of light. At those speeds, even a small object carried the destructive power of multiple nuclear weapons. The projectiles hit the Krell bioships like the fist of an angry god. The organic hulls could not adapt fast enough. The relativistic missiles punched through the ships, leaving tunnels of vaporized tissue. 40 more bioships died, but the cost was terrible. Hundreds of human ships were destroyed. Thousands of people died. The Krell were learning, adapting their tactics. They began targeting human ships with suicide runs. The numbers were against humanity, still they fought. Not because they thought they could win, but because surrender was not an option. This was their home, their families, their world, and they would defend it with everything they had. The Krell swarm, reduced to 200 ships, continued toward Earth. The moon was next. General Zhao looked at her remaining forces and prepared for the hardest battle yet. The battle for Earth had become the most watched event in Council space. What started as morbid curiosity had transformed into something else. Across hundreds of worlds, billions of beings watched the humans fight for their survival. In the Zelvari home system, the ancient Hierophant watched the battle feeds in his private chamber. He had lived for 4,000 cycles and seen countless species rise and fall. But something about the humans troubled him. They fought with a desperation he recognized. It reminded him of something old, something painful. On the Thane Collective's war world, military commanders gathered around holographic displays. They watched the human tactics with growing respect. The humans were using weapons the Thane had never considered. Nuclear mines, relativistic projectiles, sacrificial explosions. It was brutal, wasteful, and terrifyingly effective. "These humans fight without honor," one commander said. "No," the War Master replied, her compound eyes fixed on the display. "They fight without rules." "There is a difference. They fight like they have been preparing for extinction their entire existence." The Luminar Concordat, beings of pure energy and logic, ran calculations. The humans should have been destroyed by now. The math said so. The Krell swarm had superior numbers, superior technology, superior biology. Yet somehow the humans were still fighting. The Luminar adjusted their equations, trying to account for this new variable: human determination. The battle reached day 4. The Krell swarm, now reduced to just over 200 ships, regrouped at Jupiter's orbit. They were consuming their own dead, using the biomass to repair and strengthen their remaining vessels. The humans used the brief pause to rearm and prepare. On Earth's moon, the situation was desperate. General Zhao stood in the command bunker deep below the surface. Her face was haggard from days without sleep. Around her, officers coordinated the defense. The moon's surface had been transformed into a fortress. Every crater holding weapons, every tunnel filled with soldiers. "Status report," Zhao demanded. "Ammunition at 30%, an officer reported. "Railguns are operational but overheating. We have maybe 6 hours of sustained fire left. Personnel? 20,000 soldiers ready. Another 5,000 wounded but still capable. Medical supplies are critical," Zhao nodded. She knew the numbers. She knew they could not win. But giving up was not an option. "When the Krell come, we hold the line. No retreat. No surrender." The command staff saluted. They all knew this might be their last day alive. But there was no fear in their eyes. Only determination. The Krell attacked at dawn, Earth time. 200 bioships and thousands of attack craft descended on the moon. The battle was immediately brutal. Human railguns opened fire, their projectiles screaming through space. Nuclear missiles launched by the hundreds. The moon's surface lit up like a second sun. The Krell came on, absorbing the punishment, healing their wounds. They crashed into the lunar defenses like a wave of living horror. Bioships landed on the surface, disgorging Krell warriors. The ground war began. Human soldiers fought from their bunkers with rifles, rockets, and desperation. When ammunition ran low, they used their fists. When the bunkers were breached, they detonated explosives rather than let the Krell take them. The lunar soil turned red with blood from both sides. In space above, the battle was just as fierce. Captain Rodriguez led a squadron of fighters in a desperate attack. Her orders were simple: protect the railgun platforms at all costs. Her small craft dodged between Krell bioships, firing missiles at close range. "Tiger 3 is down," a voice screamed over the radio. "Tiger 7, I'm losing power." "Stay with me, people," Rodriguez shouted. "We just need to buy them more time." Her fighter took a hit. Alarms blared. The cockpit filled with smoke. Rodriguez looked at her screens and made a decision. She aimed her dying ship at a Krell bioship's engine section and hit maximum thrust. "For Earth," she whispered. The impact destroyed both vessels. Her squadron followed her example. One by one, they rammed their fighters into the Krell ships, buying seconds, buying minutes, buying time for others to fight. Across the galaxy, the watching civilizations fell silent. The Arxian Commonwealth's senior diplomats gathered to watch. The junior diplomat who had spoken to Ambassador Chen was there. He watched the human fighters sacrifice themselves and felt something he had never expected: shame. "We should have helped them," he said quietly. His superior said nothing. What could he say? The council's decision had been made. But watching the humans die alone felt wrong in a way that laws and protocols could not justify. The Battle of Luna lasted 18 hours. The human defenders fought with everything they had. When the railguns ran out of ammunition, crews used them as clubs. When the missiles were gone, soldiers charged Krell positions with grenades. Nothing was held back. Nothing was saved for later, because there might not be a later. Commander Okafor led the defense of the southern bunker complex. His troops were outnumbered 10-1. The Krell kept coming, wave after wave. Okafor's voice stayed calm on the radio, directing fire, encouraging his people. "Hold the line," he said again and again. "They will not pass." When the Krell finally broke through, Okafor was the last one standing. He was out of ammunition and wounded in 3 places. As the Krell warriors closed in, he activated the bunker's self-destruct. His last words were broadcast across all channels. "Earth stands. We stand." The explosion took out an entire Krell bioship. The tide of the battle turned not because of superior tactics or secret weapons. It turned because the humans simply would not quit. Every position had to be taken by force. Every bunker had to be cleared at terrible cost. The Krell were winning ground, but they were bleeding ships and warriors to do it. Finally, after 18 hours, something unprecedented happened. The Krell swarm broke off the assault. They retreated back to Jupiter's orbit. They had lost 90 more ships. 3/4 of their invasion force was gone. They needed to regroup, to heal, to adapt. The moon was a graveyard. The surface was scarred with craters and burn marks. Thousands of human soldiers were dead, but the line had held. Earth was still safe. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were called. The Zelvari Hierophant demanded answers from his military advisors. "How is this possible? They should have been destroyed." "They fight unlike anything we have seen," an advisor replied. "They do not fight to win. They fight to hurt us. Every loss costs them, but they make it cost the enemy more. It is efficient in its brutality." The Hierophant was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke words that changed everything. "I remember fighting like that. We all do, if we are honest. We have simply grown comfortable and forgotten what desperation looks like." Across the galaxy, other species were having similar conversations. The humans had done the impossible. They had stalled a Krell swarm. And in doing so, they had reminded the comfortable, powerful civilizations of the Council what survival actually costs. Ambassador Chenwei received a private message from the Council. They wanted another session. She read the message with tired eyes and a bitter smile. Now they wanted to talk. Now, after thousands of her people were dead, she prepared to return to the council chambers, but this time she was not going to beg. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was different from the first one. Ambassador Chen Wei could feel it the moment she entered the chamber. The mocking laughter was gone. The dismissive attitudes had vanished. Instead, there was something Chen had not seen before in these ancient, powerful beings: uncertainty. The Krell swarm had regrouped at Jupiter. They were consuming their dead, rebuilding their forces. Both sides knew the next battle would be the final one. Earth had maybe 3 days before the Krell attacked again. 3 days to prepare for extinction. Chen stood on her small platform and waited. She did not bow. She did not show fear. She had walked through fire and watched her people die. These aliens had nothing she feared anymore. The Zelvari Hierophant spoke first. His voice was different now, less bored, more careful. "Ambassador Chen, the Council acknowledges the unexpected resistance your species has shown. Your tactical competence has been noted." Chen said nothing. She just waited. The Hierophant continued. "However, the Council's position remains unchanged. Direct intervention would violate protocols established to prevent larger conflicts. We cannot simply send fleets to help one species without creating precedent that could destabilize the entire galactic order." More political talk, more excuses. Chen felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept it controlled. However, the Hierophant said, and something in his tone changed. If humanity were to defeat the Krell entirely on your own, the Council would be willing to grant Earth full membership. Not just protection status, but actual representation and voting rights. The chamber murmured with discussion. It was a significant offer. Full membership was rare for young species, but Chen understood what it really meant. They were betting humanity would lose. If humans somehow won, the Council could claim they had always supported Earth's potential. It was a politician's answer. Chen stepped to the edge of her platform. When she spoke, her voice was cold and clear. We did not come here begging for membership. We came asking for allies. We have learned the difference. The chamber went silent. You watched us die and called it entertainment. You denied us aid and called it protocol. Now you offer us prizes for surviving alone. You can keep your membership. We will remember who stood with us and who watched us burn. Chen turned to leave. She had nothing more to say to these beings. Ambassador, wait. The voice came from the Arxian Commonwealth section. A young delegate stood up, his forearms trembling slightly. Chen recognized him as the junior diplomat who had spoken to her after the first session. My government cannot officially act, he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. But the Arxian people have been watching. We have seen what you are. Some of us remember what it means to stand alone. The chamber erupted in angry discussion. The Arxian was violating protocol by speaking without permission, but he continued anyway. 50 cycles ago, my world faced invasion. The Council debated and delayed while our cities burned. We survived, but we never forgot the bitterness of being abandoned. Other voices joined in. A Thane commander stood, her insect-like form clicking with agitation. I am transmitting tactical data to the human ambassador. A communications error, of course. These things happen during emergencies. A Luminar representative flickered with bright light. Our trade fleet has experienced a navigation accident. 60 ships carrying medical supplies, spare parts, and ammunition have been accidentally dropped in the Outer Earth system. Regrettable. The Vraxian delegate, who had once suggested humans serve as biomass, spoke quietly. We are uploading energy shield schematics to a public network. Not our most advanced designs, of course, but they might prove useful for educational purposes. The Zelvari Hierophant watched this chaos with ancient eyes. He raised one tentacle for silence. When he spoke, it was in a private channel directly to Chen's translator. Ambassador, I wish to speak with you privately. Chen hesitated, then accepted the private connection. We were once like you, the Hierophant said. His voice was tired and sad. 4,000 cycles ago, the Zelvari faced extinction. We begged for help. The galaxy watched us burn. We survived alone, and we have never forgotten the bitterness of it. Then why? Chen started. Because the Council has rules, the Hierophant interrupted. Rules written by survivors who fear change. Rules that powerful species use to maintain their power. I cannot break those rules openly without causing chaos, but I can delay the interdict protocols that would prevent others from sending aid. You have 72 hours before the Council officially notices these violations. The private channel closed. Chen looked at the Hierophant across the chamber. The ancient being gave a small nod, barely visible. Then the session ended. Chen rushed back to her ship. As she traveled back to Earth, she coordinated with the incoming aid. Arxian ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, dropping supplies and immediately leaving. Thane tactical data downloaded into human computers. Luminar equipment materialized in Earth's orbit. It was not an army. It was not salvation, but it was help. On Earth, Dr. Okonkwo worked frantically with the new data. The Thane tactical information revealed something critical about Krell biology. The bioships healed through a distributed nervous system. If you hit one part, the whole ship would adapt and strengthen. But if you hit multiple systems simultaneously with enough force, the nervous system would overload. The regeneration would fail catastrophically. It is like a person, Dr. Okonkwo explained to General Zhao. If you punch them in the arm, they block with the other arm. But if you hit them everywhere at once, they cannot defend everything. So we need coordinated strikes, Zhao said. Multiple targets on each ship all at the same time. Exactly. But it requires precision we barely have, and weapons we barely have time to build. Zhao looked at the data, looked at her remaining forces. They had lost so much already, but this was their chance. Their only chance. Then we build them, and we end this. For 3 days, Earth worked without stopping. Engineers integrated the energy shields into human warships. Factories retooled to produce new ammunition based on Luminar designs. Soldiers trained on new tactics based on Thane combat data. Every person on Earth knew what was happening. This was the final battle. The Krell began moving toward Earth on the 3rd day. 70 bioships remained, but they were stronger now, reinforced with the biomass of their dead. They expected the humans to defend Earth orbit as before, to make a final stand at the moon. But General Zhao had other plans. She was done playing defense. It was time to hunt. Every space-worthy vessel Earth had was launched. 400 ships, from military destroyers to retrofitted cargo haulers. They did not wait for the Krell to come to them. They accelerated toward the enemy, weapons hot, shields powered by stolen alien technology. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The humans were attacking. After everything they had lost, they were still attacking. In the Arxian Commonwealth, the junior diplomat who had helped Earth was arrested for violating council law. As security officers led him away, he watched the battle feeds and smiled. "Worth it," he said. On the Thane War world, commanders studied the human formation with professional interest. "They are going to try something desperate," the War Master said. "Watch and learn." The two fleets met in the void between Mars and Jupiter. The final battle for Earth had begun. The human fleet moved through space like a swarm of angry insects. 400 ships against 70 Krell bioships. The numbers looked bad, but General Zhao was not counting ships anymore. She was counting targets. Every human vessel had been assigned to a firing group. Each group targeted one specific Krell bioship. The strategy was simple, but required perfect timing. Hit every vital system on a single ship at the exact same moment. Overload its nervous system. Kill it before it could adapt. The Thane tactical data had been specific. Each Krell bioship had 7 critical systems: propulsion, weapons, regeneration, command, sensors, power, and structural integrity. Hit all 7 within a 5-second window and the ship would die. Miss the timing and the ship would adapt and grow stronger. It was going to require precision humanity barely possessed. But it was their only chance. "All groups, this is Zhao." The general's voice came over every radio. "You know your targets. You know the timing. We get one shot at this. Make it count. For Earth, for everyone we have lost. For every human who will come after us. Make it count." 400 voices answered as one. For Earth. The fleets met like thunder. The Krell opened fire first, their bioweapons spitting acid and plasma. Human ships exploded, their shields failing under the assault. But the humans kept coming, following the plan even as friends died around them. The first wave of human ships swept past the Krell line. They were not firing yet. They were drawing the smaller Krell attack craft away from the bioships. Sacrificial lambs leading wolves away from the flock. Dozens of human ships died, but they succeeded. The bioships were exposed. The second wave came in fast. These were the ships equipped with railguns built from Luminar designs. They targeted propulsion systems on the Krell bioships. Magnetic accelerators fired, sending projectiles at incredible speeds. The bioships' engines were crippled, leaving them unable to retreat. "Now," Joe shouted. "Third wave, all weapons." The third wave was everyone else. Every remaining human ship fired at once. Nuclear missiles, energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, all aimed at the 7 critical systems of each Krell bioship. The timing had to be perfect. The first Krell bioship died in a cascade of failures. Its regeneration tried to keep up, but damage was coming from everywhere at once. The nervous system overloaded. The ship spasmed and went dark. Then the second ship died. Then 5 more. Across the galaxy, military analysts from every major species stopped what they were doing and watched. The humans had found a way. Against all odds, they had found a way to kill Krell bioships efficiently, but victory came at a terrible price. The Krell realized what was happening. They went berserk, launching suicide attacks on the human fleet. Bioships crashed into human vessels, accepting their own death to take enemies with them. The space between Mars and Jupiter became a graveyard. Lieutenant Park commanded a destroyer that was down to emergency power. Her ship had taken 3 direct hits and half her crew was dead. But her targeting computer still worked. "She had one more shot. Target locked," her weapons officer reported. "But we are in the blast radius. If we fire, we die too." Park looked at her remaining crew, young faces scared but determined. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her daughter was 7 years old. She would never see her again. Fire, Park ordered. The missile launched. The destroyer and the Krell bioship exploded together. Park's daughter would grow up without a mother, but she would grow up. That was enough. The battle raged for hours. Captain Williams led a bomber squadron against a cluster of 3 bioships. His orders were to target their command centers simultaneously. His squadron of 12 planes was all that was left of an entire carrier wing. Tiger Squadron, this is Williams. Line up your shots. Remember the timing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. 12 bombs hit 3 ships within a 2-second window. All 3 bioships died, but so did half of Tiger Squadron caught in the explosions. Williams watched his people die and kept flying. The mission was not over. Commander Hassan's ship was crippled and drifting. His weapons were offline and his engines were dead. But he could still see the battle. One Krell bioship was damaged but regenerating. If it recovered, it would destroy 2 human frigates that were out of ammunition. Hassan looked at his crew. Set a collision course. Maximum velocity. Sir? His navigator asked, knowing what that meant. We are already dead, Hassan said calmly. Let's make it mean something. For Earth, the crew worked quickly. The ship's remaining power was diverted to thrusters. They accelerated toward the Krell bioship, picking up speed. Hassan opened a channel to the fleet. This is Commander Hassan. The line holds. Remember us. The impact destroyed both vessels. The 2 human frigates survived and continued fighting. Hours passed. The Krell numbers dropped. 30 bioships left. Then 20. Then 15. But the human fleet was dying too. Of the 400 ships that started the battle, fewer than 50 remained. Most were damaged. All were low on ammunition. General Zhao was still alive, commanding from her flagship. But her ship was barely holding together. She had lost contact with half her fleet. The battle had become chaos, with individual ships fighting their own desperate struggles. General, we have 15 Krell bioships left, her tactical officer reported. We have 38 functional ships. We are out of missiles. Railguns are overheating. Zhao looked at her screens. 15 ships, so close, so impossibly close to winning. But her fleet had nothing left to give, unless... All ships, this is General Zhao, final order. Ramming speed. Overload your shields and hit them with everything we have left. Our ships. Our lives. All of it. There was a moment of silence. Then one by one voices answered. Understood. For Earth. It has been an honor, General. The remaining human ships turned toward the Krell. They pushed their engines to maximum, shields overloading with energy. They were going to end this the only way left, with their own bodies as weapons. The Krell tried to scatter, but their damaged propulsion systems were too slow. The first human ship hit a bioship at full speed. The shield overload combined with the kinetic energy created an explosion like a small sun. Both vessels were destroyed. Then another collision. And another. General Zhao aimed her flagship at the largest remaining Krell bioship. She thought about her wife back on Earth, about the granddaughter she would never meet, about all the humans who had trusted her to keep them safe. Earth stands, she said into her radio. We stand. The flagship crashed into the Krell command ship. The explosion was visible from Earth. When the light faded, the battle was over. Every human ship was destroyed. But so was every Krell bioship. The swarm that had conquered 40 species was gone, destroyed by a species the galaxy had called primitive and worthless. Earth had survived. At a terrible cost, but they had survived. Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the council chamber once more. But she did not stand on the small platform in the back. She stood in the center where everyone could see her. The chamber was full, but no one spoke. The Galactic Council denied Earth's plea, Chen said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. You said we were unworthy. Too primitive, too divided, too weak. You were wrong. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who had laughed at her. We stood alone because you chose comfort over courage. We survived because we had no choice. Thousands of my people are dead. Thousands more are wounded. We paid a price you cannot imagine. But we learned something about ourselves. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity does not beg. We endure. We adapt. We win. The Krell came for Earth, and Earth destroyed them. Not with your weapons, not with your protection, with our will. We will remember who stood with us. The Arxians. The Thane, the Luminar, the Zelvry Hierophant who gave us time. We will remember who helped when no one else would, and we will remember who watched us die. Chen walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council sat in silence. Within days, 47 species requested diplomatic relations with Earth. The Thane Collective offered a mutual defense treaty. The Luminar proposed technology exchanges. Even species that had never spoken to humans suddenly wanted to be friends. But Earth's answer was the same to all of them. We will consider your offer. But trust must be earned. You taught us that. 50 years later, the Krell returned to known space. They had rebuilt their forces and they were ready for conquest again. But this time they faced a united coalition led by human commanders. The tactics developed during Earth's desperate stand became standard military doctrine across the galaxy. The Krell were pushed back and contained. Earth had not joined the galactic community as beggars. They joined as equals, tested by fire, proven by blood. The Council's great shame became its greatest lesson. Never underestimate a species willing to die for its survival. On Earth, monuments were built to honor the fallen. Every monument carried the same words. We asked for help. We received silence. We will ensure no species stands alone as we did. And humanity kept that promise. In the centuries that followed, whenever a young species faced extinction, Earth was there. Not because of laws or council mandates, but because humans remembered what it felt like to stand alone.